They used to call her invisible. For 3 years, no one asked her name. No one looked her in the eye, only the sound of a mop dragging across marble at 4 a.m. and a shadow flickering past security cameras. But today, the entire company stands and applauds. She is the person stepping onto the stage in a black suit, calm eyes scanning the crowd. The one who once cleaned up spilled coffee left by the executive board. The one said, "Do not enter the executive wing." The one none had seen for 3 years is now their new CEO. Her name is Angela Moore. Every day she arrived while the city was still asleep. The night bus stopped at the corner of the South Commercial Block at 3:42 a.m. Angela stepped off, her shoulders slightly hunched, with a face without makeup, and pulled a canvas bag holding her mop and disinfectant cloths. She entered Ardent Technologies, a sleek glass tower with 32 floors, the headquarters of a Fortune 500 software giant. Here, everything sparkled, not because of magic, but because Angela had scrubbed every inch with her calloused hands. The executive desks, boardrooms, VIP elevators, pantry, employee restrooms, and reception lobby. She knew where the coffee stains landed, which desks always had crumbs, and which conference room lights stayed on long after midnight. No one remembered her name. People referred to her with nicknames like that black janitor lady, the earliest floor cleaner alive, or worse, the shadow at dawn. But Angela never reacted. She nodded, smiled, and kept working, as if nothing lingered in her heart. Though sometimes in the empty hallway, she'd pause for a few seconds in front of the closed boardroom doors, the ones where executives pitched million-dollar strategies. She couldn't hear clearly, but she understood. She had once been a business management professor and a Stanford honors graduate. She once had a small office with a shiny nameplate. She once wrote a curriculum for MBA students. Until a lawsuit, it is wrongful but irreversible. A privileged student accused her of racial bias in grading, though she had only followed the academic rubric. The university didn't want a scandal. Angela was suspended. She lost her job, her reputation, and her faith in justice. No one in this building knew any of it for the past 3 years. To them, she was just the woman who cleaned the floors. But only she knew when, spraying disinfectant across the executive's keyboards every morning, she quietly read the presentation slides left open. She didn't judge, only observed. And one day, that silent habit would change her destiny forever. One winter morning, a cold wind whipped down 6th Avenue. Angela arrived early, as always. She pulled on her worn cotton gloves and started cleaning from the ground floor upward, careful not to make a sound. At 4:42 a.m., while wiping the glass doors on the 15th floor, she heard the elevator chime off schedule. She instinctively stepped aside, thinking it was just another IT tech working the early shift. But stepping out was a white man in his 60s, wearing a brown wool coat, sharp eyes, and carrying a leather briefcase. Angela stood still, head slightly bowed. The man paused and looked at her briefly as if measuring something. He said nothing, just gave a subtle nod and walked into the executive boardroom. Angela didn't know that this man was Gerhard Fuchs, chairman of the parent company in Germany, a man with the authority to fire the entire board with a single signature. That morning, no one knew he was coming. No assistant, no announcement. He wanted to evaluate the U.S. branch in his way, walking through the dark, unnoticed. And precisely at 6:10 a.m., before any executive arrived, he saw Angela helping a young intern who had fallen on the stairs. The boy was shaken. His laptop had crashed to the floor. Angela didn't fuss. She knelt, picked up the laptop, and opened it to check the screen. The presentation slides were corrupted, broken fonts and skewed charts. Without a word, Angela sat beside him, opened the software, realigned the charts, adjusted margins, and corrected the grammar in the headline. Within minutes, she handed the laptop back and said, "You're okay. That's what matters. Be careful before the stairway lights come on. And remember to save the master file to a USB, all right?" Behind a pane of frosted glass, the chairman watched the entire scene. He didn't say a word. He simply pulled out his phone, took a picture of Angela, and sent it to his senior executive assistant in Germany. The message had only one line: "Track this woman." Name, background, everything. 6 months passed. Angela continued silently cleaning floors, tidying up, fixing the occasional open slide deck, and jotting down spelling errors, an instinct left over from another life. No one noticed and expected nothing until one Monday morning. The entire company was stunned by an urgent internal email from the parent corporation. Ardent Technologies, U.S. branch, will temporarily suspend senior executive authority for the duration of an internal financial audit. Within 72 hours, the entire board was placed on leave, from the CEO to the CFO and CMO. An audit team flew in from Germany, combing through every hidden expense, every sign of bonus manipulation. No one understood why, and no one could have predicted what came next. When the list of interim personnel was released, one name made the entire company freeze: Angela Moore, interim senior coordinator. It sounded like a joke. A system glitch? It wasn't. It was a direct order from Chairman Gerhard Fuchs. The memo stated clearly, "Ms. Angela Moore will serve as an independent advisor throughout the internal evaluation of personnel. All inquiries and reports are to be routed through Ms. Moore before being sent to headquarters." An emergency town hall was scheduled. All staff were called to the 10th floor auditorium. Angela walked in, no longer wearing her janitor's uniform. She wore a crisp white shirt, a light gray blazer, and subtle makeup. Her walk was steady, not hurried, but grounded. No one said a word. They just stood. No one knew who started it. Everyone rose to feet, almost as if by instinct, one row, then another, then the entire room. The woman they'd once called invisible now stood at the highest point in the building. Angela stepped onto the stage. She looked out over the silent room. Then she took the mic, no anger in her eyes, no pride, only calmness. The calm of someone who knows her worth. "I know. It's strange to see me up here. I've cleaned every bit of physical dirt in this building for the past 3 years. Now it may be time to clean what's left behind, how we operate." The room was dead silent. Then, like a wave breaking, thunderous applause erupted and wouldn't stop. If you've ever thought someone in your company was invisible, think again. They just might see things you've missed. If this story made you feel something different, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your honest thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe to more stories that truly move us. Angela was invited to take the old executive office with light gray leather chairs, an ebony desk, and a view from the 32nd floor that overlooked the entire company through mirrored glass. But Angela didn't sit there. She requested to be moved down to the 5th floor. No view, no soundproof glass, just a plain wooden desk and a few plastic chairs. When asked why, she simply said, "I don't need to look down on the company. I need to see it from where I used to sweep." Angela didn't call for an all-hands meeting. She walked, floor by floor, department by department. No assistant is following, and there is no clipboard for notes. Only the eyes and memory of someone who had already seen it all too clearly. In the design room, she paused at a whiteboard. "This was the slide you left on the projector on September 17th. I fixed your typo, be more careful next time. The intern blushed, stunned that she remembered. In accounting, she looked at a man in his 50s. November 3rd last year, you were the last to leave the building at 11 p.m. I saw you wiping away tears in the copy room. Your budget report had been rejected 3 times. You never gave up. Thank you. The man couldn't speak. He just sat in stunned silence. Angela didn't need files or reports. She remembered the glances she caught each day, the sounds she heard each night when she was the last person to leave the building. A week later, Angela called a senior management meeting. The very people who once couldn't remember her name now sat quietly, heads lowered. She opened with a simple line. I used to clean this conference table every morning. And I know, no matter how hard you scrub, some stains still cling underneath. The room chilled. She went on, not with anger, not with blame, just reports, inconsistencies. She had seen expense anomalies on meeting tables, printers left running, and old file drawers. No accusations, just facts. And her gaze. The gaze of someone once considered invisible, now staring straight into the eyes of those who once sat at the top. Angela began restructuring the company culture, not with PowerPoint presentations, but with actions. A permanent ban on firing someone for not being a cultural fit without concrete evidence. Internal cameras were added to boardrooms, not to monitor employees, but for employees to observe their leaders. Launch of the Nameless Day initiative. Everyone removes their name tags once a month and switches roles for a morning, from director to receptionist. No one protested, because now no one dared assume they were more important than the person next to them. Angela didn't need to command. Her presence alone was enough for everyone to recalibrate. 1 month after taking the role, Angela sent out an email to the entire company. Not a financial report. It's not an expansion strategy. Just 1 sentence. If you've ever felt overlooked, know I've been there, and I'm here to make sure it doesn't happen again. Within 4 hours, the message had spread across the company. Then it leaked to the outside. Then it was posted by a blogger on Twitter X. Then it landed on a subreddit titled Humans Leading Humans. Within 48 hours, the post had over 4 million views and 200,000 shares. CNN, Bloomberg, and even DW in Germany did features on the janitor turned CEO. Angela was invited to live interviews, but she agreed only on one condition. Don't film me in a fancy office. Film me wiping down lunch tables alongside the team. The broadcast became the week's highest-rated segment. When asked by the anchor, "Do you think you're special?" Angela simply smiled and shook her head. I'm not special. I'm just living proof that sometimes the person you never noticed was the one who saw you most clearly. The company began to change. Turnover dropped by 42% within 6 months. Employee performance steadily rose, not from fear, but from feeling seen. Branch offices in Asia and South America began adopting a reverse tower model. Leaders lead by example, and employees give anonymous feedback. A senior CFO who once opposed Angela wrote her an email after 3 months. Thank you for not firing me. Now I understand why you're in that seat. If you've ever seen a quiet janitor cleaning while everyone else rushed past, try looking again. Maybe that person once taught at a university, held a master's degree, was a parent to someone, or simply was a human being who never deserved to be invisible. If you believe stories like this are worth telling, leave a comment below. And if you want to hear more stories that flip the script, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. There's still so much worth listening to. As the office quietly hummed into the evening, Angela strolled through the HR wing one late afternoon. A new frame had been mounted along the hallway, the full company photo taken on the day the new CEO was announced. She paused in front of it, searching for something. And then she smiled. Years ago, she cleaned behind the camera as others posed for team-building photos. Now, she stood at the center of the picture. Not because of a title, but because, for the first time in her life, she was truly seen. A young employee approached her, slightly nervous. "Miss Angela, I just wanted to say thank you for being the first person to say my name in the elevator." Angela smiled gently, touching the girl's hand. "Thank you," for smiling back. That night, when Angela got home, there was an envelope waiting. No return address. Inside, a single sheet of paper, handwritten in blue ink. "Years ago, I interviewed you and rejected your application to be a lecturer. I was wrong. Thank you for not turning pain into bitterness. Thank you for continuing, and thank you for becoming the person we all once needed." Angela held the letter in both hands. She didn't cry. She closed her eyes and felt something inside her grow still and light. The next morning, at exactly 4 a.m., she arrived at the office early. Not for work, but to quietly walk the hallways once more, to wipe a thin layer of dust off the front desk, to straighten a tilted plant in the corner, and to gently adjust the uniform of a security guard who'd dozed off after a night shift. No one saw. No one captured the moment. Except for the security camera, which, this time, recorded an image of the new CEO quietly bending down, just as she had on the very first day she entered the building. Sometimes, the person who sees the full picture is the one who wipes the dust off the frame.